Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend for sleeping with a trans woman while we were on a break? My boyfriend and I went on a break from our relationship to figure things out. We had feelings for each other but weren't sure if we should be together for many reasons. It was really more of a let's break up but getting back together is possible too. We reunited and he confessed to me that during our break he saw a trans woman on a hookup site and slept with her. His reasoning was the weirdness of it was a turn on. I expected him to see others, although it would have stung a bit. Specifically, seeking out a trans woman, specifically though, made me uncomfortable and I had to break up with him again. I can't help but see him as a deviant. He called me judgmental. I'm afraid this makes me a bigot. I don't have an issue with trans people at all, but something about him specifically seeking one out for the weirdness rubs me so wrong. I won't question his sexuality or anything. She was trans, not a man. But going to lengths to seek one out, I can't explain it, but I don't feel comfortable being with him anymore. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for leaving my pregnant girlfriend after a fake miscarriage? 3 months ago, we found out that my girlfriend, or ex now, is pregnant. It was a big surprise since we took precautions, but she said it might have been a broken condom, plus she was bad about staying on birth control routinely. Regardless, it was confirmed she's pregnant. I'm 21 and she's 20. I took the news badly at first. I became surely didn't talk and just kept to myself for 2 whole days right after she told me. I was terrified and did not want to be a father at all. I just needed time to adjust to the news. I think she expected happiness from both of us as she imagined I'd scoop her up and kissed her and cry tears of happiness after hearing she's pregnant. I know this because she even referenced that scene in The Office where Pam plus Jim found out they were having a baby. Our relationship during this time was extremely rocky because she wanted us to be engaged before the baby came, and I dragged my feet. I took her to all of her appointments, paid for as much as I could afford, and was there 24/7 for anything she needed. I guess it was more emotional connection that I just couldn't force through, and she could tell. A few weeks ago, she sits me down and tells me she lost the baby. She said she had stomach cramps, then she miscarried. I was asking her a lot of health questions. I didn't know if a miscarriage this late into a pregnancy was normal. And she kind of waves me off and is like, don't worry, I'm okay. After this, our relationship's getting slightly better only because I'm slightly more relaxed now. She could tell and asked me to be honest about how I feel about the miscarriage. I tell her I'm sad it's happened so suddenly and mostly still worried for her, but deep down I am really relieved because I 100% wasn't ready to be a father. Wrong answer. She starts screaming, crying, throwing things at me. She says she's not miscarried, that it was a test to see my dedication, that I failed it completely. In short, we fought for like 3 whole days after this, with little sleep because she'd randomly throw cups of icy water on me if I dozed off. At the end of that, I said I can't do this anymore and broke up with her. I told her I'll be there for the baby and I'll pay my share of whatever is needed, but I can't be her boyfriend and I can't marry her. Now, friends and family are telling me that I overreacted, that it's just pregnancy hormones, and can I blame her? Everyone's saying things like, you can't leave a 20-year-old girl to be a single mother, but I know that if I married her, it could be the worst mistake of my life. Am I the a-hole? What do you guys think about stories like this? Because I feel like the only way to prevent not having a baby in any stage of your life is to be abstinent, obviously. But, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law I'll pay for my wedding myself if she can't respect my few wishes? I, 25 male, will be marrying my fiance, G, 25 female, later on this year. I proposed to her a little bit before Christmas and we're aiming for a November wedding. G has 2 older brothers, only one of which has gotten married, and for one reason or another, my mother-in-law, 68 female, was not involved in the planning of the wedding at all. She was pretty hurt over this as she always wanted to help plan her children's weddings, so when we got engaged, she offered to pay for most of the wedding, and in return, we agreed to let her help with the planning. In my mind, as long as I'm marrying G, I'm happy, so I was okay with this. The only thing I'm really sticking to that I refuse to change is what I'm wearing. My mother died when I was very young, and she was the daughter of first-generation Scottish immigrants. My grandparents moved from the north of Scotland in the 60s, and my mother was brought up learning about her parents' culture. Since she died, I've had a hard time connecting to that side of my family. And after my grandfather died a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to wear her family's kilt when I get married. I talked about this with my fiance before we got engaged because it's an unorthodox idea, but she thought it was a sweet and liked idea. A few days ago, my mother-in-law came up to me and told me I have to wear a traditional tux instead of a kilt. When I asked her why, she said it went against the view she had of G's wedding, and that the colors of my mother's tartan clashed with the colors she had chosen for the wedding. When I told her that this was pretty much the only thing I'm unwilling to budge on, she brought up how she's paying for most of the wedding and wearing a tux is the least I could do. When I brought up this to G, she echoed the sentiment her mother had made about paying for the wedding. I'm able to pay for it myself, and I told G that I thought she understood how important this connection to my mother was to me, especially because she can't be there, and if she wasn't able to accept that, then I'd pay for the wedding myself. G told me I was being a bit rude for being this stuck to what I want to wear, and once my mother-in-law heard that I would just pay for the wedding myself, she got really upset because it's always been her dream to plan G's wedding. I'm feeling a bit rude right now and was wondering if I should just wear a standard tux. My family's kilt is really important to me, but this is causing more conflict than I thought it would. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is just a power move that the mother-in-law is doing. I'll pay for this if you do whatever I want. But I feel like if this is so important to him and he's willing to die on this hill, or P should just pay for the wedding and then just do what it is that he wants to do. Because if someone can't respect your family's tradition, especially your dead mom's tradition, what else do you expect them to respect? Am I the a-hole for telling my wife if she wants to be old-fashioned, then I'm in charge? So I, 32 male, was with my wife, 32 female, and our son, 11 male, at a Christmas party for his youth group. They were all making Christmas ornaments at their tables when a young lady came in late into the room. All the tables were full, so there wasn't anywhere for her to sit. My wife noticed this and walked up to her son and told him to give up his seat for the girl. He told her he didn't want to as he wasn't done making his ornament yet. She told him to be a gentleman, lolly I may add, and that he should have always give his seat if a girl is standing. I thought this was ridiculous, so I went over to them and told her to leave him alone and that he doesn't have to give up his seat. And when someone is done, they can get up so the girl can have her turn. My wife got flustered as the kids and the table and other parents were starting to look at us, so she walked out of the room. She then gave me attitude during the party and on the car ride home said I thought I shouldn't have challenged her, and I made myself look like a bad husband and father by telling our son to not give his seat. I said that's ridiculous to expect our son to just drop what he's doing because he's a boy and the kid standing was a girl. She said that's what men are supposed to do, and she's raising our son to be chivalrous. You guys, I can't say that word. When I told her that's old-fashioned, she said that being old-fashioned is correct and that's why society sucks now. I was starting to get upset because she was raising her voice at me the whole time. So I yelled at her and said if she wants to be old-fashioned, then she needs to stop questioning her husband and what I say is final. This got her really upset and she has been giving me the cold shoulder since. I think OP's wife just wanted her son to be nice, but at the end of the day, if she does want to be old-fashioned, that's kind of how that works. Her husband has the last say. If she makes a request and her husband doesn't like it, she's to obey. So you're either fully old-fashioned, or you kind of let all those go, because it's different between being old-fashioned and being a polite, good person who genuinely cares about other people with manners. So am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce because what my wife said in therapy? My wife, 37 female, and I, 40 male, got married 12 years ago, and she has been my rock, and our marriage was really good, or used to be really good before we went to therapy. My friend was suffering from a lot of mental health issues, and we were worried for him. He did about 2 years in therapy and is doing a lot better. My wife suffered from anxiety and depression, and she's a vet, which is very high-stress job. I recommended she try therapy too, and she agreed. She went to therapy for 6 months and said she likes it and wants me to go with her. I personally find it a little hippy-dippy, but it couldn't hurt, so I agreed. First two therapy appointments went well. The therapist, not her personal one, nailed down one thing about my wife. She is extremely distrusting of others. She didn't have a good family growing up, and her father sold her dog, which she said was her only friend, and she suffered from an eating disorder and almost ended it in her teens. But as an adult, she's relatively well adjusted, and she's a great mom to our two kids. He asked us as a homework to do the Big Five personality test. It was a long questionnaire, and we shared it with him. My trust of others was a 34, and hers was the 8, which is very low. He asked her to tell him what makes her distrust people. She said people were very two-faced and only do what benefited them, and she felt like she has a disadvantage in life because of her morals. She is very kind to people, which is weird because she doesn't trust them at all. She helps people a lot, and one of her friends even said she's the one they go to for advice because they know she wants what's best for them and can keep a secret. She does a lot of unpaid work to help stray animals and is often depressed if an animal passes away. But she says she does it because she feels extreme guilt if she doesn't help others. But she feels people don't feel guilt hurting her, which is why she prefers animals to humans. Then the topic of our marriage and trust came up, and she was super tight-lipped about it at first, but then admitted she didn't trust me at all that much. She said she actually married me because I was honest in being kind of in for myself. She said she can't stand people who appear kind and compassionate and then lie and backstab people and prefers an honest person. I was shocked because I feel like I'm an honest but also kind and generous person. But in her eyes, I'm not. But she says it's fine because I'm honest about it. She also admitted she took out in the sickness and in health part of our nuptials because she felt like I would divorce her if she got cancer, but she was okay with that because it would kill her to expect it and then be disappointed, but she felt like she knew where she stood with me. I have been thinking about her words and it bothers me so much. I asked her out of therapy why she even married me, and she said she knew I was hardworking and honest, and most people are not kind, but they fake kindness to get ahead. She liked that I didn't, and she felt like she really understood me, so she felt safe with me. I told her if she didn't think I was a good person, but just an honest one, we should just divorce. And she got mad and told me our marriage was good. We are working together well and raising our kids, and there wasn't anything serious. To me, I just realized my wife didn't think I was a good person. I feel like our marriage has been a lie. Edit. Some of you are asking if she loves me and I love her. I definitely love her, but in therapy she says she thinks she loves me, but also admitted she doesn't know if she can love humans, as humans are generally selfish and destructive and will take advantage of people weaker than themselves. I'm really worried if she loves our kids. She acts like she doesn't, but it's hard to tell because she goes above and beyond for people she worries are going to backstab her. I think OP just sounds, not OP's wife just sounds like she has a lot of unhealed trauma that she maybe needs to, address. Because to think like this is it's actually really sad. Like, to imagine thinking your entire life that everybody you come across, whether it be your own kids, your friends, relatives, your spouse, everybody is gonna one day backstab you, and you always have to expect the worst and always have your wall up. Like, that's actually very sad. But what do you guys think? Do you think that OP needs to divorce his wife, or do you think that maybe they need to just work it out and talk some more and work more in therapy to resolve whatever is going on?
My 42 female husband, 44 male, wants to stay friends with the person he cheated with. Where to go from here? About 3 months ago, my husband confessed to me to having an affair with someone he has known since school. She has always been a close friend of his. The affair lasted almost 2 years, and he was very conflicted with whether he wanted to give up on our marriage or stay and work on it. We have been together over 20 years and have 3 young children. I did not want to give up on it and encouraged him to stay. He stayed, and although his reasons for staying are the children, we both have been working hard on rebuilding a new relationship. We began marriage counseling, and we have a deeper communication with one another. I have been initiating more intimacy, and things seem to be going well. From our first marriage counseling sessions, he talked about his feelings for his affair partner, saying he loves her and that he would like for her to still play some part in his life. The marriage counselor says that while he has feelings for her, it wouldn't be appropriate. I thought with time he would simply forget about her and shift focus to what's important, i.e. his family, his wife. But last week he brought her up again and wanted to know if he can reconcile with her and have a friendship with her. I said I wasn't ready. I'm hoping to stall this until he stops asking. He said he understood that it might be too soon. I am worried if I never allow him to speak to her, he might just start talking to her behind my back. Though currently he seems so committed to being honest with me, but that could change with time as his guilt for cheating begins to fade. As I said, his main reason for staying are the kids, but I'm keen on having a strong relationship with us. That can be possible if she is reintroduced into his life. His feelings for her will probably come floating back if they have gone at all. I don't understand how he can't see that. I don't know whether continually blocking him will breed resentment over time. I'm sorry, but that's actually very, very sad. And yeah, that's actually very sad. Like at first, initially when I read the story, like I heard the story somewhere and I wasn't really giving it much of a thought. And then when I screenshot it, I didn't really read it because I was like, let me read it from my like from my YouTube. But now that I'm actually sitting here reading it, I feel so bad for OP. Wow, that's because she never once mentioned she's staying for the kids. It sounds like she genuinely loves him. And for someone you genuinely love and spent 20 years with, to be obsessed with someone else is crazy. Anyways, update. I brought up in a recent counseling session that I found it triggering that he, my husband, still wanted some form of relationship with his affair partner after all the damage she has caused our family. My husband's response was that whilst he understood that, he was still keen that in time he would be able to. All the advice our counselor offered was that whilst my husband had these feelings for his affair partner, it would not be inappropriate. I guess that implies that if his feelings for his affair partner fades down to being just platonic, that would be alright. I wasn't too happy with her suggestion and not sure why she made that suggestion. Later that evening, I checked through my husband's phone, something which I have never done before. He had messaged his affair partner a few days before, giving details of what was discussed in marriage counseling. He said to her he was still fighting to have a friendship with her. She had replied back saying that if he was committed to repairing his marriage, he probably shouldn't be bringing her up as it would hinder any progress we would be making. To which he replied he would spend the rest of his life asking until she says yes. AP affair partner didn't respond to that. I always find it weird how women get so upset at the other woman, but imagine your husband telling another woman this, and she's telling him to work on your marriage and he's running after her, but in your mind you think that, oh, this woman is trying to take my man and ruin my family. Like, how delusional. I mean, I feel bad for OP, of course, but yeah, let me continue. I have to add that the recent message he has sent was the only one that had been sent over the last 12 weeks. I know he could have been sending messages and then deleting, but then why leave the most recent one? He could have deleted that one too. Apart from the feelings he has for his affair partner, still things with my husband are going well. We have more intimacy and we are spending more time together as a couple. It's just the feelings for his affair partner that are causing an issue. Our marriage counselor has cautioned us and explained that if his feelings for her are still just as strong a year into recovery, we may need to rethink whether this is worth saving. My husband cheated long term and is insisting on having some form of friendship with the person he cheated with. Basically, she's asking, what should she do? Yeah, I feel like I can't really say much because love makes people delusional, and OP might be delusional just a tad bit because this man does not want her. I don't know what other way he could possibly say, I do not want you. He cheated for 2 years, wasted 20 years of marriage, wasted, try to split his family apart, broke his wife's heart. Now he's talking about, imagine a man crying for another woman in front of you. I'm going to choke someone to death because what the hell, that's so rude and disrespectful. But yeah, what do you guys think? I think this is a bit crazy, but people, like, the more you read these stories or the more you hear people talk, like, the crazier people get. Like, I am so glad I am not this delusional. I mean, yeah, I feel bad for OP. To love someone who doesn't love you is crazy and it's sad, but I'm not going to save a marriage with a man who is crying and is upset and sad for another woman. I don't know what to tell you, but I will never do that. Am I the a-hole for calling after the wedding because I am suspicious what my fiance did at her bachelor party? I decided to call after the wedding after some suspicious events happened at my fiance's bachelor party. We were going to get married next week on Saturday and had our bachelor parties this week. Me and the boys hung out together at a friend's place, chatted, and played games. My fiancée and her bridesmaids decided on going to Mehain Wine House. It's a traditional Turkish entertainment place. I called and texted her that night, but there was no reply. My gut feeling screamed something was wrong, so I decided to ask about it to S. I know her through the family, and she's not as close as with my fiancé as other bridesmaids. She told me they went to a club, a very nice one at that. There are no stripper clubs in Turkey to my knowledge, but that specific place they went is just nasty. I went to there for a New Year's party in the past, and that was the craziest ish I ever witnessed. It's no different than a brothel. I asked how come they went to that club instead of Mehan. Is that how you pronounce it? She told me others changed their mind on the way, but she did not go as she did not like the clubs at all. I get a reply from my fiancé late in the morning and told me they stayed at D, another bridesmaid's place, after getting drunk in Maine. I asked her if everyone is there. She said yes. Now the problem is D's place is almost 2.5 hours away from that place. There is no way 7 girls were able to go together to the place in the midnight, especially when public transport was not available. Taxi is out of question due to cost and capacity. I asked one of my friends to call her girlfriend, who's another bridesmaid. She told him she went back to her place and others just went to different places. There are inconsistencies all over. I facecammed my fiancé right away on WhatsApp, but she said she would call me when she's available. She called me some minutes later, but she was outside and I am pretty sure it was not the district D lived in. I confronted her about it once she came back, but she could not give any satisfying answers to my questions. It became I must have said it wrong first, then other bridesmaids except S texted me, confirming things all at once. It was so obvious there was something fishy here, and they were coordinated by my fiancé. Alarms were ringing in my head, and yesterday I decided to call off the wedding. No one explains to me what happened that night clearly. When they do, there are inconsistencies all over. I announced it in friend groups and family groups. She's going crazy right now, but still there is no single satisfying answer about what happened that night. I was even told not to be an insecure guy, but there is just no way. Everything points at least something fishy happened there, and they're trying to cover it. My friend, whose girlfriend was bridesmaids, has also decided to break up with her. It is chaos all over. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not going to my son's funeral? When I was 16, I knocked up my then girlfriend, also 16. My parents wanted us to get married. Her parents wanted us to break up. It had been a bit of fling, and we definitely weren't in love, so we broke up. We stayed friends, and she would update me about the baby. She planned to raise it with her parents, but I'd be allowed to visit. But 2 months before the baby was born, her family unexpectedly moved away and forbade me from seeing or talking to her. My parents tried to get legally involved, but there wasn't much they could do as we were both underage and ex-girlfriend now lived in a different country. I didn't really have any rights. I was upset but hoped ex-girlfriend would get in touch when she turned 18. She didn't, and I moved on with my life, went to uni and got a new girlfriend. Didn't knock her up. When we were 22, ex-girlfriend contacted me by email and offered to fly me out to meet my son and be part of his life. I flew out, but turns out ex-girlfriend only wanted to rebound with me because she'd only just broken up with her boyfriend, who she was pregnant with the baby of. My son called the boyfriend dad, and when I explained who I was, he didn't want to know me and said I wasn't his dad. I flew home the same day and refused any further contact with ex-girlfriend or offers to be in my son's life, which I now regret, but I was angry. Eventually, the messages stopped. Just as a side note, I was accidentally put on a round-robin emailing list of ex-girlfriends at a Christmas few years ago. She was back together with her boyfriend. They were married and had 3 kids, plus my son. From all the pictures and stories, they seemed like a happy family. From my knowledge, my son didn't ever want to contact me or even remember me. I was angry that my son had a family without me, but I don't really know him. Recently, my son, now 18, died in a car accident. I was sad when I heard, but no more sad than I'd be about a kid that wasn't mine. Ex-girlfriend emailed me for the first time in years to let me know and invite me to the funeral. I told her I was sorry for her loss but didn't go. She sent me a long email yesterday about how disappointed she was in me and how I never stood up as a father for a man and let my son down. I told my parents expecting them to be on my side, but they are very upset and disappointed in me, saying I'm a bad, heartless person. I don't think I did anything wrong. I wouldn't go to the funeral of a stranger, which is what he effectively was. We had the same DNA but only met once 14 years ago. We had the same. I don't understand why when he became an adult, he didn't fight harder for his son. I'm sorry, but reading all of this, it just sounds like he never really fought for his son, which a father should be doing. But my parents are mourning as if a grandchild they knew died and refusing to talk to me. Anything they do say to me is just that I am a cruel person. So am I the a-hole? Honestly, he does sound like a cruel person. I'm sorry, but I don't know if it's just me, but throughout the entire story, from the time that he was 16 and then her, because that time he was 16, clearly he couldn't do much when her family moved away. But he became an adult. His son was 18 when he died. All those years, he never once did anything that was big or grand to, get his son back or to be in his son's life. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter she needs to start dressing appropriately? I, 35 female, my daughter is 14. Her father passed away when she was 2, and I remained single up until 2 years ago when I started dating Matt. He is 46 and has a 19-year-old son, Chris. They moved in with us 2 months ago. Chris is in college full-time and stays at my place because it's super close to campus. Wicked good kid. Super respectful, and the issue, my daughter very obviously has a crush on him. Since Matt and Chris moved in, my daughter started dressing really inappropriately at home. I'm not talking about revealing clothing. I couldn't care less if she wore short shorts or whatever around the house. It's a lack of clothing that is the issue. She never did this prior to them moving in, but now whenever Chris is home, she will come out in literally nothing but her bra and her underwear. At 14? And he's, 19? She wears girls' boxers, so it's not a super big deal, but it's absolutely become a problem. The boys don't even pay attention to her, but I see what she's doing, and it bothers me because she literally only does it when she knows Chris is at home. Like this morning, Chris had late classes and it's her school vacation. She came out in her normal PJs originally, saw Chris sitting at the table on his laptop. She announces she's taking a shower. She comes out 30 minutes later in her bra and underwear with a flannel unbuttoned over it and says, "Hey Chris, what are you doing?" and sits down beside him. I immediately told her to come talk to me in my bedroom, and it was at this point that I told her that from this point forward, she wasn't allowed to leave her bedroom unless she was properly dressed. She asked, why do I even have to put clothes on when this is my home and I should be able to be comfortable? So I was blunt and said, because only time you seem to give a damn about your so-called comfort clothing is when Chris is here. Go put some clothes on. She stormed after her room and slammed the door and didn't come out again. Now I have literally spoke to her about this at least 4 other times because it just keeps getting worse and she keeps putting on less and less clothing. I've asked her straight up if she had a crush on Chris, and her face goes beet red while saying, "Ew, gross, no." But it's obvious either way. I'm not blind. I also made a point to tell her she needs to think about how much trouble she could get older guys into by making the advances she is. But of course, she gets angry that I'm accusing her of being a HO. I never said that. I think she's a normal hormonal teenager trying to get guys' attention. Either way, she's pissed, and she texted my mother, who's now calling me and saying I'm wrong for making my daughter feel like her comfort doesn't matter over a guy and his son, who aren't family. Am I the a-hole? I think
OP should approach it from the side of, oh, you're a 14-year-old girl. I know you're hormonal, and I know, like, because, when you're young, like, you don't care if it's your hot teacher. You don't care if it's your hot neighbor. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going to try to get someone's attention. But she should have told her daughter, like, you're a 14-year-old girl. You're literally a minor. You don't need to be doing all of that. She tried to get some grown man's attention. If Chris isn't a perv, there are grown men who are pervs. And this just can end up wrong. So I feel like she just needed to calm down a little bit instead of coming from, oh, that she could get some grown men in trouble. Because at the end of the day, nothing can get, a 14-year-old girl can never get a grown man in trouble unless he's a goddamn perv himself. So she should have just said, oh, you're a minor, you don't need to be doing all of this, X, Y, and Z. But say, oh, you're gonna get a grown man in trouble. Why would a grown man try to get at a 14-year-old girl no matter what she's doing to her, no matter what she does to get his attention? But yeah, what do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for not going to my brother's child-free wedding because my son wasn't invited and his cousins were? Recently, my family were invited to my brother's wedding. Me, my husband, our daughter 21, and our son 18. Everyone except our younger son 16 because it's a child-free wedding. I called my brother to confirm that my son wasn't invited because I have been to child-free wedding before that are 13 plus or 16 plus, and my son won't behave badly or need such close supervision as a younger child would. My brother was very apologetic and said that he can make exceptions to his rule, and some of his friends have much younger kids, and he doesn't want to look like he is showing favoritism by allowing my 6-year-old to come. That was fine by me. I understand child-free weddings. I had a child-free wedding prior to having kids. My brother has 2 children of his own from a previous marriage, 16 and 17, and 2 of my sister's kids are also under 18, 13 and 15, and I assume none of them would be invited either. The wedding is in a different country, and my family would be flying out for the weekend. My 16-year-old is a bit sad about not being invited because him and my brother are close. I also don't want to leave him home alone for the weekend, so I have made a plan that on that night of the wedding, him and his cousins could hang out in the hotel, use the pool, get room service, and make it a night out of it. Then the next day we could explore the city as a family, so my son doesn't feel sad about being left out. When I told my brother the plan, he thought it was a great idea. But when I told my sister, she was surprised and said her kids have been invited and that she didn't know it was a child-free 18 plus. She had checked with my brother, who told her it was a 13 plus, so my niece was invited. So we both called my brother, who admitted that my son is the only under 18 in the immediate family who has not been invited, though he wouldn't say why despite me pushing him. My sister and I have both decided to not attend as we are both pissed off at him, and she loves my 16-year-old. My mother is calling us both up saying we are being childish and letting my brother down. My brother's soon-to-be wife is also furious at us and says that my brother is distraught and that my son was excluded for a good reason, once again not saying the reason. My brother-in-law, sister's husband, is also upset and blaming me for my sister not going, and I'm starting to feel bad and wish I had just let sleeping dogs lie. But am I the a-hole? First of all, before we get into the stories, I've never heard anybody say let sleeping dogs lie. What does that mean? Like let it go? That's interesting. You literally learn something new every day. And if my brother invited everybody and their mom to a wedding and he didn't invite my child and didn't give me a reason for it, I'm not going to his no damn wedding of his. So yeah.
Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife for being a stay-at-home mom? I, male 30, married my wife, female 30, around 5 years ago. We had been dating since high school. I loved how smart, ambitious, and driven she was. We bonded over academics and nerd stuff. We had both landed good jobs in the same city right after college. 3 years into our marriage, we had our baby. We had decided on sending our child to daycare after 6 months, but when 6 months were up, she refused to go to work and send our child to daycare. Her argument was if I picked up more work, we can afford a single-income household, and she will be saving us money being a stay-at-home parent, that it was better for our child as well. I refused. Daycare is normal. If it was only me working, I would have to work way more hours, be exhausted, and not spend as much time with my child. I said if she was scared about daycare, we can go to work in different shifts to stay home with our baby, like tag team. She refuses, saying that does not work for her, and as a mom, she needs to be with her baby all the time. This caused a huge fight between us. She quit her job. She'd take care of baby during my work hours and wanted me to take care of cooking dinner on weekdays and cooking, cleaning, and baby care on weekends because stay-at-home mom deserves breaks too. This dynamic really made me resent her. I tried communicating many times. The load of bills and insane work hours, along with not being able to enjoy time with my baby, all deeply upset me. When I was sure she's not going to listen to me, I filed for divorce. The court gave 50-50 custody, no alimony or child support, since I proved it was her own decision to stay home, something I never agreed upon, and her career break was around a year only. I moved back in with my parents, and they have room for our baby too. Meanwhile, my ex-wife is struggling living paycheck to paycheck. My baby stays with my mom when I work. My mom offered my ex the same, but she was so mad at me she refused and enrolled our baby in a daycare. I refused to pay for it since she can't just leave our kid with my mom. My ex-wife and her friends are calling me an a-hole for divorcing her over being a stay-at-home mom and not providing any support. Am I the a-hole? I don't understand. Like, she didn't want the child to be in a daycare. So, I don't even know. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for leaving my girlfriend after she told me she was pregnant? I, 25 male, have been with my girlfriend, 25 female, for 7 years. A few years ago, we discussed having children, and I made it vehemently clear that I did not want any at all. She did not necessarily share my sentiments, but said she understood and she was just happy to be with me. We used condoms, and I know for a fact she was on birth control, so you can imagine my shock when she came to me with multiple pregnancy tests a few days ago, happily proclaiming that she's pregnant. I asked her what she was talking about. She then admitted that she had been thinking about kids again, and the thought of having my child brought her so much joy that a few months ago she stopped taking her birth control pills and began poking holes in the condoms. I was completely taken aback, and for a few moments sat in silence. She asked me if I was happy, and I responded, "I'm done with you. Don't call, don't text, nothing." I told her to get out, and she left my house sobbing. I guess she went to my mom because about an hour later, I got an angry call from her. She asked how the hell I could treat my pregnant girlfriend like that, and when I tried to explain that she'd betrayed my trust, she dismissed me. I've been getting angry messages as well from my girlfriend's friends and family, and even a few family members. My brother and sister are the only ones on my side. I've been reflecting and wondering if I was wrong for what I did. So am I the a-hole? Wow, this is literally prime, what is it called? 101 baby trapping. Like, what the hell? Why would she do that? Like, isn't this considered SA, you guys, in a way? Because he didn't consent. I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for squaring up with my son and disowning him after his girlfriend comes to me and tells me that he's been hitting her? I, 49 male, am a single father of 3 children. My wife passed away of cancer when my oldest was 13. It was very difficult for me to raise them. I would work 12, 16-hour shifts and would not be home most of the time. I was thankful that my kids were strong and independent. I would like to give a little background on myself. I grew up in an abusive household. My dad would physically abuse my mom and also beat my siblings and me. I have 4 younger siblings, 3 of them being girls. I was the oldest and would try to take the beatings for them. When I was old enough and strong enough, I squared up against my father. I did so as many times as I needed to. I never let him put his hands on them. My father ended up going to prison for battery and we moved states. My kids' current ages are 24 male, 21 female, 17 female. My daughters still live with me since they are going to college, but my son has moved out and made his life. My son has gotten a girlfriend and I have met her. She's a sweet, loving, and soft-natured girl, and I genuinely like her. She reminds me of my wife when she was younger. I invite my son and his girlfriend over for lunch and dinners quite often. They have now been dating for 3 years, and she would sometimes come over and help my daughters out with college stuff or just come over to hang out with them. I love her as family and have told her so. 4 weeks ago, she came over, and when I opened the door, the first thing I saw was that she had a busted lip and a black eye, and her eyes seemed to be dyed in blood. I immediately took her in and helped her. My daughters were also alarmed, and when they saw her and When we asked her what happened, she told us that my son was the one who did it to her. I cried at hearing that, and I hugged her and begged her for my forgiveness. She told us all about it and apologized for not telling us sooner. This wasn't the first time he had hit her. I've asked her if she has told her parents or the cops, and she said that we were the first person she felt like going to. I cried. I reassured her that she was safe and not to worry. I asked my daughters to clean up a spare bedroom for her as she would be staying. I cannot describe how I was feeling, but you guys can imagine it. I spent hours just staring at the black TV screen looking at my reflection. A few days after she came to us, I invited my son over for dinner. I had her consent and knowledge to do so first. My son came over and I've instructed my daughters to keep her in their rooms and to pretend they weren't there. She was with them as well in their rooms. When my son knocked on my door and I saw him again, I felt sick and my blood boiled, but I kept my composure and we sat down to eat. I kept looking at his hands and knuckles and there were faint scrapes and marks. I asked my son basic questions trying to seem normal and nice, but the whole time I didn't see him as my son anymore. I saw him as my father and I didn't like that feeling. He acted normal until I asked him how everything was with his girlfriend. He choked on his food for a few moments and told me everything is fine. She's just busy with work and I haven't seen her in a while. I just nodded and said, "Oh, that's nice. Glad she's doing okay." We finished eating and I washed the dishes. I sat right next to him and asked him why he was beating his girlfriend and told him, "I think it's time you stop lying to me about your girlfriend." He asked me what I was talking about and I told him to stand up and put his hands up, that I knew everything and I was gonna show him what it's like to be the weaker person. Before he could say another word, I swung at him, told him that this was the real deal. I did not hold back. I was going to teach my son what it feels like to get beat since he thought it was okay. I told him to keep his hands up and to defend himself. We fought, but of course was going to be the last one standing. I asked him how it felt to be weak, to be on the other end of it. He told me to stop, but I asked him if he stopped when she begged him to. I didn't stop beating him until his girlfriend came downstairs and screamed at me to stop. He looked horrified at seeing her. I told him that he was lucky she didn't tell her dad because her dad would have made him bury his own grave. That he was lucky no one told the cops because people in jail or prison aren't fond of men who beat women. That he was lucky I'm not putting him down like animal he is. I told him how disgusted I was being the father of a man who beats his girlfriend. That at this point on, he was no longer part of this family and to get the F out of my house. That he was disappointment to everyone in this house. Seeing how I left him reminded me of how she came to me. I tossed him some napkins and told him to clean himself up on the way to whatever ish hole he came from. I cried once he limped out of the front door. I told his girlfriend that moving forward was her choice and I would support her. If she chose to stay here, she was more than welcome to. If she chose to continue her relationship with him, then I would be doing random welfare checks. I told her how sorry I was that something so horrible happened to her and that it was my fault. It has been a few weeks and I didn't realize that I had a broken nose, but that is okay. She chose to end the relationship with him and she has been staying with us. I feel like ish. I keep seeing the red stains on the couch and carpet and I keep asking myself if I did the right thing, if there were other options. I no longer had a son and that hurt me. I do not know if I did the right thing. I've just been staring at my reflection on the TV. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for sleeping with my sister's husband? I, 29 female, find myself in a complicated and difficult situation that has strained my relationship with my sister, 31 female. I recently slept with her husband and now she refuses to speak to me. However, I genuinely believe that I am not solely to blame for the fallout and I need an impartial judgment on whether I am the a-hole in this scenario. Prior to the incident, I noticed some questionable behavior from my brother-in-law, 33 male, towards me. Feeling concerned about my sister's well-being, I decided to address the issue with her. However, she dismissed my concerns, leaving me unsure of how to proceed. My sister works as a flight attendant and is gone more than she is at home. My brother-in-law recently lost his job and was feeling depressed. During one of her frequent absences from home, she asked me to keep her husband company. She trusted me and didn't believe the warnings that I gave her before about his behavior towards me. But I saw this as an opportunity to support their marriage and help them rebuild their connection. Unfortunately, as we spent more time together, our bond deepened and we eventually crossed a line that should never have been crossed. We had been both drinking and he was complaining to me about the troubles in their marriage and how he hasn't been for a while. He was crying and I decided to comfort him. One thing led to another and we did the unthinkable. I woke up realizing the nature of what I did and immediately realized the nature of what had happened. We both were so intoxicated that we stupidly ended up falling asleep. I woke up to my sister screaming and hitting the both of us, screaming, "How could you do this to me? We're sisters. I trusted you." She wouldn't even give me a chance to explain and kicked me out of the house. Now my sister refuses to speak to me. She has filed for divorce. Our parents are siding with her, saying that I violated every family moral. However, I believe that there are more the audacity. I believe that there are multiple factors at play here. I am not the only one responsible for the breakdown of their marriage. While I acknowledge my mistake, I also question why my sister failed to address the issue in her relationship and why she left her husband in my care without setting clear boundaries. I think the clear boundaries here is that they're married. I mean, what more do you need? I do feel a sense of guilt and remorse for my actions, but I also recognize that my sister and her husband had their fair share of problems. It's unfair to place all the blame on me when there were underlying issues that existed long before our involvement. That being said, I understand my sister's anger and hurt. I am willing to accept responsibility for my actions and make amends, but I also believe that it is crucial for her to acknowledge her role in this situation. Rebuilding trust and repairing a relationship will require open and honest communication from both parties. I'm sharing my story. I hope for an unbiased judgment and guidance on how to navigate this difficult situation. Am I the a-hole for sleeping with my sister's husband? Wow, out of all the stories I've read so far, okay, never mind. But this has to be top 5 of people with so much audacity. Why would she trust me with her husband? She should have set clear boundaries. I think the clear boundaries were the fact that they're married, and marriage seems like a clear cut boundary. Like, what more boundaries do you need other than the fact that this is a married man? Oh, and the fact that he's your sister's husband. Update. Okay, guys, I get it. You guys have ripped me apart in the comments, and yeah, I admit I messed up. After deeply reflecting on my actions and seeking advice from others, I have come to realize the extent of hurt and damage I caused to my sister. I genuinely regret my behavior and am now fully aware that I was in the wrong. There is no excuse for what I did, and I think I was trying to excuse my actions because the thought of it always was too painful. Last night, after reading comments, I mustered up the courage to reach out and apologize to my sister. Unfortunately, despite my sincere efforts, she has not only refused to speak to me, but has also blocked from all forms of communication. The fact that my sister has taken such measures is deeply upsetting to me. I yearn for her forgiveness and genuinely want her back in my life. However, I understand that I cannot force her to reconcile or forgive me on my terms. I have sought advice from friends and family on how to navigate this situation, but it seems like the best course of action for now is to respect her boundaries and give her the space she clearly needs. I have continued to reflect on my actions and have sought therapy to address the underlying issues that led to my hurtful behavior. I found some online and plan calling soon to get started up to help figure out the root for my behavior. I am committed to personal growth and becoming a better person, regardless of whether or not my sister chooses to reconnect with me, in which I will never give up trying. While I hold on to hope that one day my sister will be willing to reopen the lines of communication, I also acknowledge the possibility that she may never want to speak to me again. Regardless, I will continue to grow, learn, and reflect on my actions, knowing that healing and you guys, I can never pronounce that word. Reconciliation, are processes that cannot be rushed or forced. I hope my sister sees my remorse and my effort to grow. I will update if anything further happens. Wow, I mean, at least she owned up to her mistakes, you guys. I mean, we oftentimes we see a lot of people come on here and they're like the absolute worst people on God's green earth, and they never admit the fact that they're wrong. So at least she admitted that she's wrong, and we've started reflecting on it. I feel like at first she was nothing but ego driven, but now I'm starting to see, I hope she changes, because sleeping with your sister's husband is really not the vibe. Like, please, find another hobby. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my fiance by saying that just because we are getting married does not entitle him to my inheritance? I, 32 female, recently got engaged to my partner, 35 male, just a year ago. As of right now, we have been together for 5 years and our wedding is planned for May 2025. I am just going to get straight into it. Unfortunately, only a couple weeks after our engagement, my nana passed away. The reason for it I will not disclose. My nana and grandpa worked extremely hard throughout their lives, were very successful, educated, and had really high paying jobs. They are very restricted on spending money young, so lived their elderly years with lots of it. Worth noting, my grandpa is very intelligent man, and he's very smart with money and investments, so when I say lots, I do mean lots. My nana wrote a hugely generous sum of money into her will that was to be inherited by me, my brother, and my 3 cousins. Even after the money was divided up, there was still thousands to each of our names. I also won't disclose the exact amount. When I heard the news, I told my fiance and he was incredibly overjoyed, much more than I expected him to be. I went along with it and shrugged it off until later in the day I heard him on the game with his mate saying, "I can pay my credit card off with that money, mate. We can finally get the boys' holiday we've been planning, eh?" And laughing, I walked into the room and asked what money, and he immediately looked at me funny and said, "From your nan, babe." I immediately exploded on him, said, "You won't be paying anything off without my permission, and there most certainly will be no boys' holiday. It's not your money to have. It's written to me from my nana. It's not for you." We had a shouting match and I left the room upset. He later got off the game and found me in the kitchen where he scolded me again and said, "We are getting married. You will become my financial burden. Any money you take in is mine also. It was incredibly selfish of you to make such a fool out of me in front of my friends and giving them false hope of a holiday." Again, worth noting, it wasn't me who said anything about a holiday. And where I became a financial burden, I don't know, considering considering I am in a very good job and I don't want children. I left the house without saying a word and I am typing this at my friend's house right now. I forgot to mention that this incident has literally just happened. The reason my fiance only just found out is because until now, even I didn't know if the money was coming to me or not due to several family and court complications. Am I the a-hole? First of all, getting into a screaming, shouting match, whatever she said, with someone over their money is crazy. Why would he assume all of these that he's gonna be paying off his credit card bill and then he's gonna be getting a boys' holiday? And what's even more crazy is promising your friends that you're going to be taking them on holiday on someone else's money that they didn't even agree to give you to begin with. That's the crazy part. Like, OP's husband is already future husband is already doing the gaslighting and manipulating thing off the gate, and they're not even married. So imagine how worse it's going to be when they do get married.